This might bark at me and tell me to pay for Excel. We'll see. Okay, good. We provide you with an Excel document with all of your vote totals, including any ones that aren't yet reviewed, that maybe you decided not to go through all of them and you just grabbed your registered write-ins. We'll show you all of those. There'll be a tab for every candidate. We'll do it by precinct and show you those vote totals, what precincts they came from, and we'll even give you a link back to that ballot artwork if you want to go see that ballot. And I got to be honest, this write-in tool is not even our latest version. It's just the one I've been demonstrating. We're continually making improvements to this. So if it can help you, I'm sure you guys have more write-ins than anybody in the state. When I was the director in Warren County, I always say that write-ins were the bane of my existence. I thought they should be criminalized.
I agree.
So, we're just, again, I think they explained to you what kind of the origin of this write-in tool. It's certainly something that we could work with you on if there was some functionality or features that we could add. But again, it's just kind of an example of we don't just dump a system on you and you have to live with it the way it is. We're certainly willing to work with you on it. Okay, James?
Absolutely. Like I said, we kind of get knocked out of order a little bit, but if there's that's kind of tabulation and write-in processing and all that good stuff. I know that there are a lot of people in here that want to see the actual programming side and ballot creation. So if that is okay, I think that's what we'll hop into next.
That good?
Sure.
Okay. I think I still have that virtual machine brought up. If not, I'll just have James tap dance for a minute. I do. So you'll notice that we're running through a browser in almost everything we do. I don't need to tell anybody in this crew this, but just in case, it doesn't at all mean we're connected to the internet. We're using the browser to point to an internal network. Gives us some different things. Oops. User-based control, as you can see. This is Google Chrome, which is part of our certified package. So I think I'll just open up the election and start. I think you've seen some of this, so some of this will be review. I will stay fairly high level, but we can drill down deeper, so feel free to ask questions. And this might be a great place where we find that there's some things we need to think about to serve Cuyahoga County better. So with that, we'll just jump into the election. This is my demonstration election. The first screen that you're going to see, and I can make things bigger just by using those browser controls just so you can see a little bit better. Off and on, you'll see me do that. Date of the election, name of the election. If you have any special circumstances, which like straight party doesn't apply here, but if you did. Election state will allow you to set things so you don't mess yourself up. If you've kind of gotten to a point where you don't want to screw up your printed ballots, you can set the software to warn you and say, hey, wait a minute. So we have the ability to do that. The thing I really definitely wanted to show you, and I'm going to back up one place on my breadcrumb trail at the top. That's another thing we add for you so you don't get lost in a maze of software. You'll see that breadcrumb trail populate and depopulate. I want to specifically mention localizations. We give you the ability to tailor your software to meet your business rules and business requirements. Obviously, this is software that we certify at the federal level. We want it to be able to be as meaningful as possible to as many customers as possible, but we recognize that you don't do elections and call things the same thing as Seattle or Washington does, or even as Columbiana County does. So we give you the ability to tailor it. So the example I always use invariably is I open up voter groups. Now, I've already actually got this changed. What we call voter groups in Ohio, we really refer to as parties, right? So I have changed this localization. I have said anywhere in the software where our software would by default say voter group, I want it to say party. And I've saved that. So now when I go into those elections and I open up my demonstration and I look at my right-hand or left-hand menu option, I have parties now. If I hadn't made that change, it would have said voter groups. So anytime you see any verbiage in this software, just think of it in terms of what would you call it, and you can make it that way, okay? Really quick, because I know somebody asked me about messages earlier, so real quick, let me go to here and show you, actually here, device messages. Somebody, I can't remember who, specifically asked me about the insert ballot. Could this say something else? Well, yes it can. Insert ballot. In this particular case, I've got the Spanish version up. Let me do this in English since I don't know Spanish. So if you wanted to say something different,
What'd you say, Jason? Insert ballot one page at a time?
One sheet at a time.
One sheet at
Okay.
a time.
is that a problem here?
Yes.
Yes, 2-page ballots, they try to stick a version on one.
Okay, so maybe you want to make that bold on your screen for your ClearCast scanner. You can do that. So almost any message you see, I think James called it an exception that some of the buttons weren't necessarily, and some of that has to do with the sizing, you know, how many words can you fit into a button. But where we can be flexible, we allow you to have that autonomy. Okay, let's go and get election specific a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my main election screen again by using that breadcrumb trail. And the point I try to make by pointing that out is we try to make this as easy as possible to navigate. We don't have different modules, or you don't have to close down different things to open up something else. We try to keep it all. If you have to go somewhere else, many times it is just the next tab over. So that's kind of the way you'll see me navigate it. We do allow you to work in multiple languages. I happen to have this in English and Spanish. Our software will automatically set up a second ballot for another language, or you can certainly set it up to have English and then Spanish. Or do you only have Spanish, or do you have other languages?
Just Spanish.
Just Spanish, okay. So you can set that up on the same ballot as well.
I was talking to somebody earlier that you guys have a pretty high subset of Russian speakers in the county too. Not anything that triggers your language requirements, but that ties into something like that. I'm sorry to steal your thunder if you have this plan, but it ties into kind of that concept around voter services that we were talking about with that device. So you could program additional languages into the system very easily through Google Translate type functions, and direct the voters to use the voter service device rather than pre-printing a ballot and sending it out. If you
So
don't
maybe you had
need
somebody
to.
that wanted to vote in Russian, but you didn't want to have a stack of Russian ballots there.
Yeah.
They can vote on Clear. Are you eating a Snickers?
I felt like I was starting to look like Betty White, so I wasn't myself, so I had to eat Snickers.
Okay. So I'll just run through a few of these different menu options. You guys kind of get all this, I'm sure. And if I go too fast or skip something, please ask. Parties, again, would have said voter groups before that localization change. I have 6 parties plus a nonpartisan. Nonpartisan is there by default. The reason I have this is Ohio certification election required these 6 parties, so I just left them in on my demonstration election. District categories are precisely what you think they would be. I've got a handful already built here. Obviously, you would have a ton more district categories here. You might have everything from water to cemetery. Obviously, fire districts, I'm sure, are all around the county. But these are just some examples. And then, of course, the actual districts that fit into them, whether it's 2 different congressional districts, et cetera. It's a relational database that's just tied together by drop-down menus and things like that. Precincts, I have 6 precincts built into this database. This would obviously be a lot more for you. We can handle all of your splits. We wouldn't be certified if not. But those relational database elements are built here as well. I have a handful of contests. I have 3 candidate contests in here, and I also have 2 issues. just kind of standard stuff. I do want to open an editor or two and show you a couple of things that I think is worth seeing. So I think I'll just open up the Senate race here.
Yeah, I might have been eating my Snickers and just focusing on that, but you mentioned imports for your districts and that.
I haven't yet, but I
Okay.
promise I will. We can import data from your VR system to set up those base relationships, so you don't have to hand enter them. I know you have DIMS right now. I don't know if you're looking at other systems, but we'll work with whatever system you have. I'm sure DIMS has some basic database exports that we can use. The editor, you can open up a big screen. We also provide you with, and I want to be clear about this, we don't force you to code in HTML. But if you want the HTML version, we will build it alongside of your rich text editor. The thing that I see as handy here, maybe you have multiple mayor's races. Well, I'm sure you have multiple mayor's races in any given election. If you want to open up the HTML editor and do a copy and paste, you will ensure that every one of your races on whatever ballot it is identical. You didn't accidentally change a font or a bold setting or something like that. Speaking of settings like that, and this is a big deal, you'll see the word inherit in different places. In this particular case, it has to do with warning about overvotes and undervotes. Maybe you can't imagine somebody coming and voting in an election and not voting for president. So maybe you want to, in one race, say, I want my machine to warn a voter if they didn't vote for president. You could actually do that.